people are really struggling to even know if they're hungry or not. But what I'm going to be talking about in this video is understanding the difference between emotional eating or boredom eating and actual physical hunger, and you learning a little bit about appetite awareness, because you're stuck at home all the time, you can't go out, you don't have your normal social life, you're surrounded by food all the time. So without going into too much detail, I'll just cover a couple of things that will help you figure out whether you're actually hungry or not, and what might be boredom eating and what could be contributing to the boredom eating or emotional eating. I'm just going to help you identify if you are eating out of for any other reason that's not hunger. With your appetite awareness, understanding when you're actually hungry or when you're full is so important, because you don't want to be eating food or calories just because that's what's there on the given day and that's what you're supposed to stick to because it's your calorie deficit. That's ignoring your intuition, that's ignoring your body cues telling you when you're full or telling you when you're hungry. First of all, when you're eating, you should not be on a screen, and that's a laptop, a computer, or a phone, or any other screen that's available. You can put the phone down for 5 minutes. This is how you're going to learn about mindful eating. That doesn't mean that you don't have to track calories at all. You can do both without calories or both with calories. So if you're tracking calories at the moment, you put down your phone at the screen, take your 5 minutes, slow down, chew your food, actually taste your food, have some water with it. How are you feeling throughout that meal? Like sometimes when you actually put the phone down, you realise that if you were looking at the phone, you would have finished the plate. Whereas by putting the phone down, you realise that you're actually full before you're finished the meal, which you might not have picked up on before. If you're full before the plate is finished, you don't clean off the plate. You are full. Keep it for later. Slowing down, taking time to eat your food. I'm talking literally only 5 minutes, 10 if you have it. And that's not always going to be the ideal scenario. Like, at least try to do it for 2 meals if you can't do it for every meal. That's kind of how to start mindful eating. But after that, like, having a think about like how soon after eating are you hungry? Is it an hour after a meal? Have you found that you haven't eaten for ages, and is that because you're working loads? So if you're finding that you're really hungry very soon after your other meals, you need to look at the content of the meal. Is it very low in fibre and protein? Because if it is, it's likely that you're not going to be full for very long after. If you have a croissant and coffee versus having eggs on toast, you're going to be very, very hungry soon after the coffee and the croissant versus the protein and toast meal. Also, the total amount of calories. Are you having a look at your calories? Are you eating what you're supposed to be eating? Are you under eating? That could be another reason that you're hungry. Having a look at water intake. Water has a huge impact on appetite. If you just drink half a litre or a litre of water, wait for 20 minutes, usually you won't be hungry again, and actually you're probably just thirsty. So check first. But obviously if you're still hungry and if you're drinking a normal amount of water, again, check the actual volume of the food you're eating, or maybe you just need a little bit more food on that day. Did you sleep crap the night before? Are you coming up to your period? Are your hormones usually screaming out for food at that time? And if you are, just being aware that, okay, no, this is the week before my period, I'm usually really hungry, and just knowing that, so that maybe you can add a little bit more protein, maybe you can increase the fibre content in your diet, or maybe you just need a little bit extra calories that day or that week. So those are kind of just some of the basics of appetite. Also, knowing when you're not hungry. So say you brought food to work with you or whatever it is, and you just kind of automatically eat it sometimes and you're not hungry. Stop for 2 seconds before you eat that meal. Like, are you actually hungry? Maybe you could just push that out a little bit later. You don't force yourself to eat when you're not hungry. So that's just the basics of actual appetite, fullness and hunger. When it comes to true hunger, true physical hunger versus whether it's an emotional eating, it's very easy once you get into the habit of understanding the variables. True physical hunger, your belly might be going, you probably haven't eaten in a couple of hours, it's probably time for a meal. You are not eating in response to stress, sleep, and emotion, or boredom. So these are the things that contribute to you eating for any other reason than physical hunger. So how do you know if you're eating out of boredom? It seems so basic, but you actually have to stop and ask yourself before you go and eat that meal, am I actually hungry? If it's a true emotional eating, it might have been so intense, the emotion, that you will have finished the meal before you even knew that you've eaten. It'll be impulsive, it'll be high energy, it'll be not mindful, you'll be forcing food in or whatever it is, and actually usually a couple of minutes after you'll probably feel sick because you'll have eaten too much. It might have been a binge, you might have eaten too quickly, which is most likely the case, so you won't even have chewed your food properly, you'll just have shoved in a load of food and ignored anything. You won't even have been hungry half the time. Sometimes when you actually are so starving, which is true physical hunger, you force food in so quick that it's like a big binge, but that's because you were so hungry, you left food too long, you left it too long between meals. If you're eating out of sadness, happiness, excitement, anger, loneliness is a big one at the moment, and you're finding that you're binging and afterwards you feel bad about it, this is when it is more emotional eating. When it comes to boredom eating, it'll be completely like mindless activity. Same with the emotional eating or the comfort eating. You won't really have realised what you've eaten or that you've eaten, maybe until an hour or two later, or when you open the press and you realise, like, where's that food gone that was in the press, and then it clicks that you actually have eaten it. It is completely mindless, unconscious eating, and it has nothing to do with hunger. You're sitting down on the couch, you're bored, you've done your day of work, you're working from home, you're locked in, whatever it is, and there's packets of stuff everywhere. You're not even enjoying the food, you're just eating it. And that is when you know that it's not true hunger. So the emotional eating is usually high energy, impulsive, big binge. The boredom eating is just, you don't even realise you're doing it. Sometimes it's different, it manifests differently to the emotional eating because it might not be intense, it might not be a big binge, it might be just slow. It might happen when you're watching a movie and you realise there's all these wrapping papers or the box of Pringles is gone and you haven't even enjoyed the treat. You're not hungry at all, but you're also not full because you've been eating snacks. Practice your mindful eating, but most importantly, ask yourself, are you hungry? Because that could help you understand your hunger frequency. Like, are you hungry every 2 to 3 hours roughly? Because that's really good. You're getting to know that you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours. Are you about to eat a meal and then you realise, actually, I'm not hungry? And then that's great because you can keep that meal for later. So I won't get into breaking down the emotional eating itself in this video. I just want to help you build the awareness of when you're hungry, when you're full, or when to realise that you're actually emotional eating or boredom eating. So I really hope you've learned at least one thing out of this video. And the emotional eating, I have lots of courses and videos coming up on that, so hopefully anyone that does realise that they're doing that, emotional eating or lonely or bored, those courses and videos will be for you.